Welcome back to another youth-centered podcast. Very excited to have the fourth person in our Savage Leadership series. This is an individual that I got to know along with her husband about a year ago. As a matter of fact, our first meeting was like 2 weeks before the world shut down. And this is Deanna Junge. So Deanna, first of all, thanks for coming on the Savage Leadership series.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So Deanna, what we like to do is, instead of me reading a bulleted bio of who you are, which I think is a little stale, I like to have our guests kind of tell us a little bit about themselves. What is the Deanna Junge Files? Give us a little background of who you are and what you stand for.
Great. So my husband Stuart and I own FIVO Design. We're recently rebranded from Landmark Finish. Located in Andover, Mass. We've been in business for 20 years, and during that time we've had to pivot multiple times due to market conditions, and so we're actually in the middle of another pivot right now with the rebranding and getting ready to roll out our new line of furniture, which we're really excited about. When I'm not at work, I'm a mother of two. My two sons, Brody, who's 14, and Colby, who's 12. We do a lot of family projects together. Our boys have grown up in the shop for better or worse. They were always with us at work because, as entrepreneurs, we work a lot. So they've grown up in the shop. They've become, young woodworkers and young entrepreneurs at that as well. They kind of have their own little gig, making cutting boards and different kinds of things, and now working with the youth center as well. So we like to be involved in our community, both as residents and as business people, reaching out and trying to make an impact on the community around us.
Absolutely. And I got your name from Andy Furman, who's actually on my board of directors, our council. And he said to me, you need to really reach out to the Youngs. They're doing some creative things, because I, at the same time, was thinking about how we could incorporate a little more programming around different things of working with your hands in woodworking. And I remember coming over, and it's a great facility, people, if you ever get a chance post-pandemic to come over. They have a nice property with 2 floors, and they showed me all the different things that they do. And at that time, with some amazing furniture I was looking at. And then we talked about doing a woodworking program, which we actually have kicked off successfully this year. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So Deanna, what we ask all of our guests in this series is, the first question is one that we ask everybody, and that is, how would you describe Deanna Junge's leadership style?
I would say passionate. Everything that I do, I really throw myself into it and get behind it. If somebody tells me that I can't do something, I'm just more want to go out it and get it. We had that, a little bit of a situation with the youth program, with an insurance issue, and I said, nope, there's no way, we're not making this happen. We're going to go after it. So I really get behind everything that I do, and I'm passionate about it. I'm very determined. Stuart and I wind up doing a lot of our ventures together, both, as husband and wife and as business owners. So we also bounce ideas off of each other a lot. So it's always nice to kind of have him by my side to support, what we're looking to go after.
Do you think you've always had that style, or is it a style that, obviously with your union with Stuart, is that something that's evolved? Or is this kind of, go back to even your younger years as a kid, a college student, beyond, were those kind of your leadership style, or has this evolved?
I've always been a very self-driven person. When I was a kid, I studied like crazy. I didn't necessarily have somebody riding me to do that. I was just always very self-driven to excel and to try to achieve great things. So, of course, I think everything evolves over time. And so, then going to college and, meeting other people and kind of taking in different experiences and, bringing them into who I am. But for the most part, I've always been self-driven, and I really like, one of the things that I really like is pleasing people and bringing a smile on people's face. So whether it was, working with a client to design something for their home to make sure that they're going to have a great space in their home that they're going to enjoy for years to come, or helping my kids learn a new skill in the shop so that they can go out and build something. Like, I'm always looking to share my skills with other people to kind of lift them up and help them do something great as well.
Awesome. Following up from your leadership style, what would you say are some of your leadership values?
I would say definitely integrity and loyalty. I'm a very loyal person, and it's very important to me to always be authentic to who I am. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions and you're pulled in different directions, but I always like to make sure and reflect back that what I'm pursuing and what I'm going after is authentic to who I am, and I'm not trying to fit into somebody else's mold.
I love your use of the word authentic. John McVeigh and myself, we use that word a lot. And truly is what I'm looking for to be every day, is authentic and true. What type of leader, going back to obviously before you were, owners of your own business, what type of a leader growing up maybe did you thrive under? And what type of leader would you maybe have struggled with?
I would say in my older jobs, when I was first starting out in my career as a CPA and financial controller, I definitely thrived under leaders who let me take something and run with it. I definitely struggled with people who would micromanage me. So sometimes I get very caught up in my head, and I get all these great ideas, and I just need to go out and get it. And I definitely feel constrained by people who, want me to report in at every pinpoint along the way. I really thrive under people who give me that freedom and that liberty to kind of go after something and tackle it my own way.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the same way with myself. I struggle with micromanagers, and at some point I just like people to get out of my way and let me do my thing, and I think I've proven that I can do that. Let's talk a little bit about Landmark Finish, and we'll get into the new branding of the company. But why did you and Stuart start Landmark Finish, and what was your vision probably in the early years?
Oh gosh, we've changed so much over the years. So we just celebrated our 20th year of being in business May 1st, and so I really was not part of the company when it first started out. So we incorporated in 2000, and I was working downtown, working toward earning my CPA. And Stuart's been an entrepreneur his entire life. So aside from the 4 years that he was in the United States Navy, he's pretty much never collected a paycheck from anybody else. He's always been an entrepreneur. And so he started out doing finished carpentry, which is where the name Landmark Finish came from, because he was really a finished carpentry company. And so, he started out with a trailer and his Jeep, just with a little mobile shop, and going around from job site to job site, creating finished carpentry on site. And he got in with a very strong network of high-end general contractors in the greater Boston area, and then eventually grew out of that and rented a small shop down in Winchester, because we were still living in the city at the time. And just with time and hard work, he grew out of that, and that's when we purchased our building in Andover in 2007. So I really came on board with the company after our oldest son was born in 2006, and really I came on in an accounting capacity, because that's what my background is, accounting and finance. And so I really just came on doing the books, but that's changed so much over time. And, it took me a little bit of time to learn a new industry, right? So my entire background was in finance, and now, I'm trying to learn the language of, the world of construction and cabinetry, and gain my confidence in that as well. So slowly I started taking on a greater role doing project management, design work, general organization with the business. And then that grew into really business development and, doing community outreach and things of that nature. So it's been quite an evolution over the last 20 years. And now we really we manage the entire business together. So there's really no aspect that I'm not involved in. Other than, Stuart still does like the design on the, the software design and running the machines, but now we really, manage every aspect of the business together.
And I love it. You guys have, we're going to talk about this shared responsibility is my next question, but one of the things that I've loved is there's just a real collaboration with the both of you doing a little bit of everything. The reality is on the business side and our connection with the youth center, I deal directly with you, quite frankly, and you do a lot of, the arrangement on that. And then obviously with the actual products that we're working with, and Stuart's the genius on that stuff. So my next question would be around that. Like, how is leading a shared responsibility with your husband? You have a similar, our past guest was Melissa Rodriguez, who's our town manager, who is a town manager, obviously in North Andover, and her husband is actually in municipal government. So they have a lot of where they share a lot of the same things. You guys work hands-on in the business together. You see each other at home every minute, and you see each other every time at work. So how is leading a shared responsibility with Stuart?
Well, we have very different styles, whether it's in management style, how to approach things. I am definitely more calculated and thought out, and Stuart is more quicker on his feet. I don't want to say impulsive, but he makes quicker decisions than I do. So in many respects, we complement each other very well. So, when he wants to jump right into something, I'm like, hey, hold on, wait a minute, like, let's think about this, Of course, I'm always like trying to make a spreadsheet for something, but so I would say that we just complement each other very well. I mean, that's not to say that, once in a while we butt heads, because we certainly do. If he wants to move on something quick and I want to, kind of analyze it. But for the most part, the formula just works for us, and, we have struggled over time to, I would say, manage our work-life balance better, and we're getting better at that. We're better at that now, I think, because we know that we're moving towards something with our new line of furniture that we know has really great possibilities for it. So it's always easier when you know that you're moving towards something that is going to be successful, rather than when you're kind of stuck in a rut, and so, we've been in business together for 20 years. We've been together for over 25 or 26 years now. So, we just have learned how to really make it work.
Yeah, and I've actually obviously don't know you that well, but over the last year we've had many conversations and meetings with you guys, and I love how you and Stuart really balance each other off. Even in a meeting, when we came here to talk about our second round of doing the program, there was really a give and take with Stuart and you, as well as your boys. So you brought the boys to the meeting. So that's actually my next question. I love this whole aspect of this family businesses, as well as a lot of leadership qualities, not only from you and Stuart, but also with your young men, who I am very impressed with. So how has family helped you be a better leader? And talk a little bit more about the boys, not just hanging out at the shop, but now being part of what you're doing.
Yeah, so, it's kind of funny because when the kids were really young, Stuart didn't really want them to learn the business. He didn't want them to learn how to work. Not that he didn't want them to learn how to work their hands, but he certainly didn't want that to be their future. I would say because it hasn't always been easy, as through the 20 years. I mean, when the market crashed in 2009, we had some really, really tough times. And so, obviously you always want something better for your kids. And so he did not want the kids initially to really get involved at the shop, because he wanted to make sure that they were pursuing something bigger and better for the long run, for their goals in life. And but then it just happened organically. I mean, in the beginning, the kids would say, "Oh, Papa, can we help you? Can we hold this for you?" And then they would disappear into the shop, and we'd find them, and they would be screwing 50 screws into a piece of wood and staying busy that way, and they were happy as anything doing it. And then we'd be like, okay, now go unscrew them. And then it really developed into, Both of them have, I would say, Stuart's brain in the way that they are very mechanically inclined. And, he has discussions with them about, products and different things, and they actually can make suggestions that are like really value added suggestions because that's what they've learned over the years. And so, when they first started out making their own projects, they made a cutting board for me for Mother's Day. And it's a beautiful cutting board. I still have it. And, I posted it on Facebook, and all my girlfriends were like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Like, they should sell those. I want one. Can I order one? And so I told the kids, and they were like, what do you mean? We can make money doing this? Mm-hmm. And so the best part of it was that they were taking all of our wood scrap in the shop. So they literally were using pieces of wood that would have gotten tossed in the garbage. And they made this beautiful cutting board. And so they saw that they were having fun doing it and they could make money doing it. So they're very motivated by money, my kids, which is not a bad thing. And so they kind of strategized about how they could make it into a business. And so, obviously we supported them in that, and we got them into actually the local artisan market in North Andover, over by the mills. And they were just a hit. I mean, people loved it. They loved their story that they were young kids that were doing something with their hands. They were creating something. They were upcycling material, so it had the green aspect to it. They loved that they weren't sitting in front of a screen playing video games. They were doing something constructive. And, it's taught them so much over this time because they have skills that so many kids their age just don't have yet. Absolutely. Interacting with people, they've learned how to, speak to an adult. They've learned how to make eye contact. They've learned how to shake hands with somebody, obviously pre-pandemic. They've learned how to reconcile their cash box at the end of the day. Like the skills that they've learned through something that just started off as one little project have really grown them to the point that they don't know what they want to do in the future yet because they're only 12 and 14, but they both already have that bug in them that they want to be entrepreneurs, which is really cool.
And we're going to get into it a little bit more about their participation in our program here. But so 2 weeks before the pandemic, everything shut down, we had talked about doing a program, and we came up with a woodworking program that I got a grant for, thank you to the Joseph N. Herman Youth Center. And we were excited because we didn't have the ability to do anything, either expertise-wise, space-wise, equipment-wise here at the Youth Center. So when Andy said reach out to the youngs, it made all the sense in the world. So let's talk a little bit about our partnership, right? So we came up with the idea at the beginning of the pandemic, and we were actually able to roll it out this school year, and we just finished this week our spring session of it. So talk to me a little bit about our partnership and how that evolved and what you're thinking of it.
Well, I think it's awesome, and I'm so glad we finally got it off the ground. So the real magic, I think, of the program is that Brody and Colby are the instructors. So it's that peer-to-peer instruction that I think really is our secret sauce here. When the kids come in, it's kind of interesting because the two groups that we've had so far have been different in that the first group was more chatty in the beginning. The second group was a quieter group. But by the time the second group left after 6 weeks, they were all chatty and hanging out and making small talk with each other and rooting each other on and congratulating each other on their the piece of art that they made. So that's been really cool for us, to kind of watch the evolution of the kids over the 6 week program. But, I think the fact that, obviously I do some of the admin. I talk about the safety aspects of the program and do that. And Stuart and I are overseeing the program, but we really try to leave it to Brody and Colby to do all the instruction. And I think that gives the participants a different level of comfort coming in, that they can ask a question, because maybe if they're a timid child, they're not asking an adult, they're asking somebody who's literally the same age as them. And the boys also share toward the end of the program some of their own projects that they've worked on. So, for example, Colby likes to do leather working. He makes bracelets, and Brody's made, his own guitar. He's built his own guitar. So they get the chance to show that, and I think it really shows the kids in the class that, well, why can't I do this? You know what I mean? And so I think it gives them that perspective that they come in, for the most part, having no hands-on experience with any tools or wood.
Correct.
And then they leave with this beautiful piece of art that they've made, a piece of wall art, and they see the other projects, because we have a little corner where we keep out all of their projects so that they can see them and touch them. And I think it gives them inspiration that, they might be able to make some other things down the road. So it really, I think, gives them a different perspective and opens up their mind to something that they might not have otherwise exposed to.
So the model that you and Stuart put into place, I could not have been more happy with. So as a kid-centric person, the fact that your boys are actually the instructors, and again, like you as an administrator, I got to make sure everything's being done safely and following all the guidelines that we have now. And you and Stuart do a phenomenal job with that. But your two boys are rock stars to our kids here at the youth center. Most of them consider them friends. I know they keep in touch with each other through social media and texting. And it's been phenomenal what the boys have done. We're real excited, as I told you offline. The first two groups have been all boys. Actually, no.
We had one girl.
We had one girl this session. But we're looking to do, I hate to separate by gender, but there's a bunch of girls that would like to do it together. So our next group this coming fall that I wrote another grant for, we're going to try to get a girls group to go on that. But again, your boys have been amazing with our kids, and it's been amazing to watch both of your boys present at the program, but also in that meeting I had here I was always impressed with you and Stuart, but I might have been more impressed with your two boys in terms of their questions to me and their ideas, and the way that you allowed them to express how they felt was real leadership to me. So let's get into the pandemic. In the pandemic, lots of things changed, and one of my things that I talk about is who were the real leaders during the pandemic and who were the ones that were more just title holders. And I love hearing stories of people that either reinvented themselves or adjusted, or we use the word pivoting a lot during the global pandemic. So I'm sitting next to these wonderful plastic dividers that we have all through the youth center. And when we first heard about this, it was no-brainer that I heard that the Youngs were leaning into this type of pivoting in their business, and they did a great job of that. So talk a little bit about what the pandemic did to Landmark Finish per se during those tough times, and how you reinvented yourselves.
So pretty much, when the doors, when the schools shut down on March 13th, obviously we thought the kids were going back to school after a week.
2 weeks, yeah.
Right? It was supposed to be a little hiatus to clean out all the germs, and they were all going back. And then, we quickly saw, watching the news every night, that was not going to be the case. And we had, I would say, 5 or 6 projects, custom cabinetry projects in queue in various states. And so, we started receiving those phone calls from the clients saying, our general contractor just shut down the job, we're on hold. Can you finish our cabinetry? Can you hold on to it? We don't know when we're going to take delivery. People just didn't want anybody coming into their home that wasn't necessary. And we understood that, but we also knew that meant that, our workflow was going to dry up in the near future. And at that point, there was no telling when there was going to be some kind of wave of relief that people were going to feel like they could get back to normal. So, unfortunately or fortunately, we were not a stranger to pivoting. So when the market had crashed in 2008 and 2009, we had pivoted our business then from high-end residential cabinetry to we had added commercial cabinetry at that point. And so Stuart and I quickly started reflecting back on that pivot that we made, And, he just knew that we had to do something fast. So we were literally watching the news one night, and Stuart saw somebody standing behind like a makeshift barrier being interviewed. And he was like, Dina, we got to start making plastic. And I was like, what? Because like this was just out of nowhere. And then we really started thinking about it. And, our shop has all CNC machinery that we've invested in over the years. And the machinery doesn't care if it's cutting wood or plastic. So we really were in a position that we could make that transition very quickly. So Stuart went to the shop the next day and started prototyping. He knew that he wanted to make something that was a little bit different than everything else that was on the market. He wanted to be, like everything that we do, there's always got to be this high quality characteristic to it. And
Sure.
so, he wanted to make sure it was going to be very sturdy and put out not just a commodity product, but something that, was going to stand around for a long time. And I would say within 2 to 3 weeks, he had our line of clear protection barriers prototyped and ready to go to market. And we just went after it. We, like most of what we do, we did a very grassroots kind of, I call guerrilla marketing approach. And so we started reaching out to people in our current network. So everybody on the commercial side that we've ever done cabinetry for, we let them know that we were making our own line of clear protection barriers. We started posting it on, social media, connecting with people through LinkedIn. And before you knew it, we made our first sale on May 1st of 2020. And over the course of the next several months, all the way through the end of the year, we wound up, working with local businesses, some colleges and universities. I think over 40 local schools we were able to help get back to business. And so, it was a very interesting time because, a lot of people were not in great shape from a business standpoint, and we were actually doing very well. COVID was actually a great period of time for our business because we did pivot so quickly. But, we also took a lot of, we felt good that we were helping people get back to business because, we knew how important it was to get people's doors back open again. So,
Yeah, I personally was a recipient of that. One of the last things that we had to do was to get this plastic installed so we could open up. And again, we were open all summer, but then when standards came with opening the youth center for the fall, we had to do this. And you and Stuart, took my order right away, got it in on time and even quicker, and we were up and running. So it was an incredible pivot that you guys did. And we're going to actually talk about how the Landmark has turned into your new business. But let me throw a quote out at you. So this is a quote that I thought about you and Stuart, but I'm going to ask you the quote. And it's simply old school, new school, one school. That is a school of growth, development, and improvement. What would that quote mean to you?
I mean, when I hear that, I think if we're not moving forward, we're moving backward. Life, for better or worse, is not a stagnant place. It's not static. And so, for us, we're always looking to innovate and try to grow. So, and that goes for our business as well as, the business with the kids as well, trying to set that example for them as well that you always have to be forward thinking, right? You always have to be anticipating what, obviously nobody anticipated a global pandemic, but always looking for ways to improve yourself as well as your business, and just looking forward all the time.
Absolutely. Take it outside the business right now. You're obviously raising a family, you're involved with the community. Are there leadership initiatives that you're involved with outside of the family business?
So I in the last couple of years, I've taken a step back, but I was very involved with our kids' schools in Boxford, particularly when they were younger. Our older son is now in high school, so it's a regional high school, and our younger son is on his way there next year. But I spent many years on the PTO board, fundraising a lot for the schools. which was really important to me at the time to make sure that all those extra programs that come into the schools were supplemented. And I really enjoyed that time. I made some of my best friends through that connection. And then Stuart and I are also involved in the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce, which has been a really nice connection for us in our business. And then we also try to, like I mentioned earlier, Stuart's a U.S. Navy veteran, so we participated in a program about a year and a half ago now, like an accelerator program from a business standpoint, that was focused on veterans. And so we try to give back to that program by doing webinars and things like that whenever we can as well.
Awesome. I love that. You know, it's not just leadership in the work, it's leadership in your own personal life. And you mentioned things that are really dear to yours and Stuart's heart, you know, obviously education, and the fact that I didn't know Stuart was a veteran, and doing some things for veterans is awesome. Let's talk about how the business has now changed in terms of it's going to be FIVO Design. Talk about how that evolved and why.
So when Stuart developed our clear protection barriers, they have a very unique hook and slot joinery system. And at the end of 2020, he wanted to build desks and give them to charity. And we struggled with what would the desk look like and the design aspect of the desk, because he wanted, again, to put out something that wasn't just an ordinary desk. He wanted to do something to help people who, so many people now with parents working from home and kids remote learning, people are tight on space, right? Mm-hmm. Not everybody lives in a big old house that has an extra room for everybody to be doing school from home or work from home. And so we wanted to do something that was really space friendly, but we struggled with it. And so we started prototyping, and then we realized that we should use the same joinery system that we use for the plastic on wood. And so we've since applied for a patent. We put a patent application in on that joinery system, and we've developed our own line of furniture with that. So we weren't able to do that charitable contribution at the end of the year because it took us several months to prototype, but now we're getting ready to roll that out. And it's really exciting because it could be broken down, it could be assembled in 30 seconds, which is insane. There's no hardware or tools required to put it together.
Really?
This past weekend, we went down, there was an open air market in Copley Square. And we were like, let's go get a booth and let's just put our stuff out there and show people, just to get like initial reaction now that we can, that the patent's filed. And people loved it. And the thing that really drew people in was the demonstration, because when was the last time you saw a piece of furniture put together in 30 seconds flat? And so Stuart, God, he was a saint. He spent 6 hours straight assembling, disassembling. But that's the magic of this furniture, is, showing people that like anybody can put it together. So we're really excited about it. We feel like it can be appealing to a whole range of people. We're really targeting probably the most people living in the city where space is tighter.
Sure.
But it's really neat because you can take it apart. You can stow it under a couch or under your bed when you're not using it. But it's really a multifunctional piece of furniture that can be used as a desk, a hobby table. If you have a small kitchen, you can use it as an island or something. And he's really gone above and beyond, and he's developed like coffee tables, bed frames. So we're going to roll it out slowly, but we have this whole line of furniture that's coming to market.
How exciting. So FIVO Design will be the name. It is in process right now. And Deanna and Stuart are rolling that name out now, so we won't be using Landmark Finish anymore. At the same time, the boys have started their own little business under you guys. I love the name, Young Makers. Their last name is spelled Junge, so it's Young Makers. Talk to us a little bit about that, and what are the boys' plans?
So that's, kind of a play on words. So we first started getting involved with the maker community back in 2018. So Stuart and I are originally from New York, and there was an event happening in New York City called Maker Faire. And so so Brody had found it on Instagram. He had been following some people doing woodworking and metalworking, and he heard about this event. So basically it's just an event where if you make things with your hands, you can go to the event, you can see, different projects that people are making and just connect with people and talk about what kind of projects you like to do. And so being that we were from the area and we still had family there, we were like, yeah, sure, let's go. So we went down and we went to this event, and the event, I would say, definitely changed our life and our family dynamic, because it was that event, I would say, that we really really kind of understood how much the kids enjoyed connecting with other people who make things. So, that's been a little challenging for them, because at school, they don't have a lot of friends who make things. And so this event, they were able to meet other makers and really, talk to people on an intellectual level about the things that they're making and the projects that they were working on. And that really was, that was an incredible moment for them, and to witness that. And then from there, we stayed connected with that maker community. And we started a family YouTube channel. So that's where the Young Makers really started. We started a YouTube channel called Young Makers, and we started documenting our projects that we were doing with the kids. So Brody's taken to, he's very good at video editing. So, we would go to the shop on a weekend, and we would pick a project and we would video it, and Brody would edit it, and we put it out on YouTube. And I'm not saying we have a huge following or anything, but that's really how Young Makers was born. And then when we started working with the youth center for these classes, we initially had done it under Landmark Finish. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, our insurance company did not like the idea that we were having children in our shop.
Sure.
They didn't necessarily take the time to understand that they were only using very limited tools and it was all in a safe environment. They just did not want the exposure. And so the insurance company basically said, we're going to cancel you unless you remove this piece of your business. And so that's when we decided to actually incorporate Young Makers. And so now we're running the program under that name, with, obviously with the proper insurance. But it's been, I think even in that, you see like that as like a hiccup in the road, right? Like, oh, what are we going to do? But even that hurdle, I think, just solidified for us even more that this is really something that we're passionate about and that we wanted to move forward with and start a brand new company to make sure that we can offer these things. For Stuart and I, we've struggled over 20 years of being in business with finding employees and finding young people who want to start a career in this kind of stuff, working with their hands. And so we've witnessed that from a business standpoint, and then the boys have witnessed it from, a peer standpoint, that they're the only ones doing what they're doing and, within their own peer groups. And so for us as a family, we really feel passionate about bringing that to other youth and letting them have that experience of being in the shop and creating something.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal, and I keep talking about how great your kids are, but it's they are true leaders themselves. As you look at going forward here, what keeps you going and growing in leadership? Are there things that you do to either study, read about, listen to, in terms of growing your leadership?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is just staying positive. We hit a lot of hurdles along the road, no matter what we're doing. So staying positive is a huge part of just moving forward in general. But Stuart and I, over the last year, we do a lot of continuing education. So we're always looking to better our business skills and our personal skills. Stuart listens to a ton of ebooks all the time. I prefer to read rather than to listen. So I don't get through them quite as quick as he does. But, we're just always I would say we're just always open-minded to hearing, different perspectives and listening to people that can share with us something that can help us to grow both, professionally and personally.
Absolutely. I did want to go back to when we had that insurance glitch, and your insurance company was working with my town's insurance company back and forth. One of the things I was most impressed with is she's not lying. Deanna would not let this go. Like I've dealt with other companies in the past on other issues, not necessarily insurance, where it's like, well, we can't do it, let's give up. And there was no give up in you, and I know there's no give up in me. And we probably rectified that. It took probably a little longer than both you and I wanted to.
Yes.
But, within a couple of weeks we had it resolved. And I always say, I took from that, Deanna's going to be someone I can work with that's, not going to say we can't do something. It's going to be more about how we do something. So, all right, a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to let you go. What guides Deanna when it comes to making tough decisions? And let's be honest, you and Stuart have had to make tough decisions during the pandemic. And it, listen to it almost sounds like it was just Stuart had a great idea, we moved with it. But what kind of guides your mindset in making tough decisions?
I mean, we always have to, weigh financial decisions, but we have to weigh like what's going to be that motivational thing to get us up and moving in the morning, because the one thing that we've learned in 20 years of business is that if you're not doing something that you love, it's never going to be a success. And so, we've really been taking the last few years to shape the business into something that we love and we are passionate for and we're motivated to move forward with. And I think that's really important to keep in mind because we've definitely been at points in the business where Stuart's not been happy where the business was, and it just, I can tell how it affects him. So really shaping the business into something that we really do have true passion for in growing and moving forward, I think has been key. And then, the other thing is just, again, that we are doing it together, I think is really helpful. We've been a bunch of different learning cohorts and we see other people struggle, and it's because they don't share that with somebody, I think. So for us, yes, some days are long because we're with each other literally 24 hours a day at work, at home, whatever, and it's tough to kind of make that break from work and personal time. But I don't think we could have done over the years what we've done if we weren't doing it together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I want you to give a little advice to our young leaders that are maybe getting out of high school, some of them that went to college, getting out of college. Stuart kind of knew when maybe he got out of the Navy, he wanted to maybe work with his hands. You come from more of a business background that's come into the entrepreneurship. What would you say to those young people, a little bit of advice as they start out, something that maybe you did 20 years ago?
I would say to go back to being authentic and being true to yourself, but at the same time, don't ever close your mind off to an opportunity. We take advantage of opportunities all the time, and we're always, kind of looking out for opportunities. If you asked me 20 years ago if I thought I would be doing what I'm doing today, there's no way. I started out, I was getting my CPA, I became a financial controller If you asked me 20 years ago if I had any idea I'd be doing what I'm doing today, there was no way. I hands down thought that I would be pursuing a career in accounting and finance for the duration. I just never would have thought that. I always kind of knew that I would help the business on an accounting standpoint, but I never thought that I would be here full time in the capacity that I am, doing business development and things like that. But it's just taught me that keeping my mind open to that. I'm glad that I did because I enjoy what I do. I'm passionate about what I do every day, and I'm excited about the possibilities of our hard work really paying off for us in the future.
Absolutely. All right, before we let you go, we're going to ask you, I'm going to throw out a few leaders' names, and I want you to kind of tell me what may come to you, either a first word or a sentence about this person. And these people are known leaders, and just kind of what comes to mind when I mention this name to you. How about Abraham Lincoln?
I would say a thought leader.
A thought leader. And what do you mean by that?
Just looking for knowing that there is a better way to make life better for everybody, and just very forward thinking.
Nice. Jill Biden.
Jill Biden. Oh, Joe Biden?
Jill Biden, his wife.
Oh, honestly, I don't really know much about her.
Don't know much about her. You know she's the obviously Joe Biden's wife. All right, let's give you another
Can
one.
you skip that one?
Yeah, we'll skip that one. Jeff Bezos, controversial founder of Amazon.
Oh, I would say, gosh, this is tough. I'm like on the spot now.
Yeah, this is one thing we didn't give you as part of the talking points.
No, you didn't. I would say passionate. I admire people who, I think it's, just you have to go after what you want and not worry about the noise around.
Besides, yeah, I mean, that's a good point, right? So there's some people that are big believers in what he established as a business, and then there's obviously people that haven't loved how he's rolled out his business, maybe even the pandemic. Part of it is, I mean, the jealousy of how much money he's probably made too plays
Right.
into that whole thing too. So how about this famous leader, Stuart Young?
Oh my gosh. You're gonna get emotional. He's amazing. He really is. He's a great father, great husband, and my partner in life.
He is an amazing guy, and I hope people get to know Deanna and Stuart. I mean, post-pandemic, when it's okay to kind of show up at their business or whatever, they are amazing people. I am blown away with their story. I can't get enough of it, I'll be honest with you. I thank every day Andy Furman, Nicole Downer, people that put me in touch with this incredible family and what they're doing. I think the business itself has been successful. The way that they have pivoted many times, not just in the pandemic. If you got to meet their kids, they're just great kids. I mean, they're great kids, and they're passionate about what they're doing. And my hope is that some of the kids that we send over to Young Makers, that maybe they're kids that will actually start doing a little bit of their own. Maybe not as a career, but maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's something they can do on their own. Maybe some of these kids will come back and work for you over at the business. You never know. You've talked a little bit about sometimes it's tough getting some employees for long terms, and maybe some of these kids, because I know when they come back on the bus with Lauren, they're raving about the program. They're very proud of what they designed in 6 weeks, the process that went into it. They're all students. They've been in school all day, and it's like going to school. Like, you run it as a class, and it's a hands-on class, but hopefully some of those kids come back too. So we're going to give you the final word. It's something we do every podcast. Our listeners, as I've told you before, could be anything: parents, kids, professionals in town. What would you be a final word about our subject matter, about leadership, and obviously what you've built?
Well, I mean, obviously, like, I'm honored that you asked me to do this today, and I mean, I think, I think you should be recognized as well, because I think that one of the things that's connected us so much is that you as well are a very forward-thinking person, and we're problem solvers, and we don't let things get in our way. So I appreciate that, and I think that's been, our secret sauce in having such a strong partnership and getting this program off the ground. I'm really excited to see what the future holds for it. For us, it's been a very special experience as a family putting this together. We're very proud to be bringing this to the community, and it's kind of like the legacy that we're handing down to the kids for them to continue on. So it's been so much to us on so many levels to be able to develop our children and bring this out to the community. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for the future of it.
And I am too. And I do not work for the Young's family business, but I have been throwing at them ideas. And I think the sky's the limit of some of the stuff you guys can do. We've talked about father-son classes, mother-daughters, and parents-kids classes. If you're a youth organization somewhat in the area of Andover, Mass, you should be reaching out to them. I know my guy over in Andover, Bill Fahey, I've talked to him about this, and I know you know Bill.
Yep.
But other groups, whether it be anybody that's working with kids, this is a great partnership that I think can be a win-win for all of us, right? So for me, it was offering a program and a skill that we never did here at the youth center. And I'm trying to build a facility here that has something for everybody. And a bunch of these kids, their connection to the youth center is the Young Makers program. That's their connection and what they love to do on that. So partnership is important. Collaboration is important. I do think we have a good working relationship. And I go back to that 2 weeks before the pandemic when I came over, you guys gave me a tour. I remember the TV being on, and they were talking about this virus, and we didn't really know it was at the country at this time. But the passion that we both had to pull this off, and I think we're excited about the future for our program and our collaboration. But this isn't just our partnership. I encourage people to get in touch with Stuart and Deanna and the kids and get your own involvement with them because if you're not, we're still going to be there anyways. So I do want to thank you, Deanna, and obviously coming on the Youth Centered podcast and sharing your leadership thoughts.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And our best, obviously, to Stuart and the boys. We have our last two on the series coming up, and one is Rich Napolitano, administrator of the Greater Lawrence Family Health Center, and he's going to be talking about his work in rolling out the vaccine in the whole Merrimack Valley area. Phenomenal job that the GLFHC had done. And then we also have Chris Downer, owner and proprietor of Downer Brothers Landscaping. Full disclosure, I met Chris when I first started here, and he was pushing this little lawnmower on his skateboard, and he has built quite the business here in North Andover with his wife Nicole, and we're going to talk about all the hidden gems of his leadership also. So again, I want to thank everybody for listening, and as we finish every podcast, we always say too much passion is never enough passion.